So you were in court today.
Yes, so we were in the federal courthouse here in Tyler for a case that we've been following for a couple of years now, the arrest of a former Smith County Sheriff's deputy who had one time worked in the jail. And the official charge at the time, and we have some video actually from this federal court hearing today. It is federal court, so we can't be inside the courtroom with a camera, but we were able to station outside, and you can see Mr. Sandoval walking with his attorney there. And to offer some background on this case, this one goes back to August of 2021. That's when Luis Alberto Sandoval, 29, you see him there on the left in the white shirt. He was first arrested in August of 2021 on a state charge at the time of misusing official information. Now, the state indictment alleged at the time that Sandoval did admit to conducting a driver's license and an arrest warrant check using law enforcement equipment and software that he had access to as an employee of the Smith County Sheriff's Office to conduct a check on an arrest warrant and driver's license for a criminal associate in Mexico. The associate told Sandoval that that license that he wanted checked out was for a friend who was staying in Mexico at the time and involved in the trafficking of narcotics. Now, considering that this was trafficking across the U.S.-Mexico border, that's when it got elevated to a federal crime. And that's why the hearing that was held today happened at the federal courthouse in Tyler for the Eastern District of Texas. Now, what happened was Sandoval was later indicted on a charge of bribery, but today in court he pleaded guilty to a different kind of charge, a lesser charge of the misusing the ID. And so that's unlawful transfer, use, or possession of ID, which is the one that that criminal associate in Mexico wanted him to run through the equipment he had access to check for warrants and things of that nature.
Right.
So that means there is a lesser sentence he now faces. The way this works is he was before a magistrate judge this morning. So he entered into that plea of guilty to the misuse of the identification instead of bribery. That bribery charge will be dropped when he comes back before a U.S. district judge for sentencing. When it comes to the sentence he faces, right now it would be a sentence of no more than 5 years in federal prison, a fine that wouldn't exceed $250,000, and at least 3 years of supervised release. If he gets sentenced to prison time, that 3 years of supervised release could come once he is released from prison. Now, the fact that he was a Smith County Sheriff's deputy and a former jailer, and he was using government equipment to run these searches, that will be considered at the time of sentencing. So, again, he was employed by the Sheriff's Office November of 2017 to August of 2021. He first came to work as a jailer, a detention officer, got transferred to parole in the fall of 2018, and of course he was let go from the Smith County Sheriff's Office soon after they learned of this, and soon after he was arrested, around the time he was arrested for these alleged crimes.
So is this being treated like an isolated incident as far as the county is concerned, or are there going to be new policies or protocols in place to kind of look for these things in the future?
So when it comes to the county perspective, since the arrest happened, we haven't spoken with the Sheriff's Office about this. Mr. Sandoval was let go. He was relieved of his duties. At the time, Smith County Sheriff Larry Smith, who is still the sheriff in Smith County, said that behavior like this will not be tolerated, and as soon as they get wind of something like this, criminal activity, especially with the badge on, that person will be taken care of, and if a crime has been committed, of course, they will be arrested and prosecuted. So at this point, the case is now in the hands of the feds, the government, and they've had it for a while, and what happened this morning is they entered into that plea. Mr. Sandoval entered into that plea of a different charge, not bribery, which he was indicted by a U.S. grand jury for, but instead misusing that identification. In that case, that being him using the equipment, the T-Cole equipment, the law enforcement equipment that he had access to as a sheriff's deputy to run these searches for a criminal associate living in Mexico at the time and involved in the trafficking of narcotics. So that's what's being alleged. He pleaded guilty to it today. Instead of what we see sometimes with these state charges that happen over at the Smith County Courthouse, where they'll enter into that plea agreement, they've already got the sentence prepared, they've agreed to it, the attorneys, the prosecutors. In this case, the district judge, the federal district judge, will be the one to look at the parameters, look at the crime, and then decide on a sentence.
Okay, we're going to have more, of course, as that whole thing plays out.
Yes.
All right, we'll talk
keep
to
you
very
updated.
soon. Thanks, Blake.
You bet.
And there you go, Blake.